All right, so today I'm going to share a version of the oat squares that I usually give my kids for breakfast on busy homeschool mornings. These are lovingly by us called vanilla squares, but they could actually more probably easily be called pina colada squares. So they're a mix of pineapple, banana, and lots of vanilla, along with oats. And this is absolutely one of my kids' favorite versions of these squares. Hope you enjoy it. All right, so before I even start, I'm just preheating the oven to 375. I have some parchment paper, and I'm just going to line my baking pan with that, just like a cake-sized pan. You can also turn this into cookies, but I actually find this recipe is one of the looser batters that I make, and I've not tried it yet, so I think it works best as a cake. All right, so here's what we need. We need 3 super ripe bananas, and I actually do not have any fresh, and that's totally fine. I have frozen bananas, and I'm just going to take 3 of those and thaw them in the microwave right now. I want to reserve all the liquid and the juice that comes off it. They look disgusting, but that sweetness is what's going to give the recipe its amazing flavor. And then I'm also going to use a whole can, 19 ounces of pineapple in 100% juice. And for this recipe, very few do I actually use juice, but I do use the juice in this recipe. I just throw the whole can in. Pineapple chunks, pineapple tidbits, whatever you want. I will say, we've tried the no-name kind of pineapple before. It really did not taste great. And I find it kind of makes or breaks the recipe. So I would recommend Dole or something similar, like a good quality brand, because it does impact the flavor a lot. Rolled oats or quick oats. I'm going to use a little baking soda. That is totally optional. If you are trying to reverse disease, you probably either want to leave that out or use a salt-free version. You can actually get them online. This is not something I always add, but this particular recipe, because of the acidity of the pineapple juice, actually gets pretty fluffy. And I usually even, you'll see I kind of puree the oats just a little bit sometimes, and it really does give it sort of a vanilla cake texture and flavor. So the kids like that as a treat, as a change. I use vanilla powder is even better. I use a giant bowl, and I use an immersion blender and a big spoon. I still have not decided if I'm going to blend the oats or not. I probably will though today, so I wouldn't even need the spoon until the very last step. All right, let's get started. Okay, so I have thawed bananas. They look disgusting, but I put them in for about 3 minutes. These are very large bananas. If they're huge, you end up using more rolled oats. If they're smaller, you use less. Really doesn't matter. Super forgiving, flexible recipe. So I'm going to throw these into a big mixing bowl. I could do it in here. It actually does fit, but it's tight, and I hate having to be careful when I mix. So I'd rather rinse one more bowl. Okay, and like I said, I'm going to crack this can of pineapple in 100% juice. And for this recipe, it literally, I think, is the only recipe I do this with. But I do throw the juice in at the same time. And I'm going to throw in a good 2.5 to 3 tablespoons of vanilla. This makes this taste amazing. It really does. It adds so much. Just as a note here, sometimes when I add the rolled oats, I even sub out lately half of it for chickpea flour, or sometimes I throw in some ground flaxseed into these. So it's a really malleable recipe, but a lot of times I just do the straight oats. So I'm going to go ahead and use my immersion blender, which I just love, to puree this. If not, you could do it in a food processor, probably even a blender, because this one has quite a lot of liquid, but it really does need to be totally smoothly blended. So I'll show you that when I'm done. All right, so here it's totally smoothly blended, and that's about the height that it reaches. Again, I often just leave it at this, add in the oats at this point, but I'm going to make it a little more cakey today, so I'm going to throw in about 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Most recipes I do not do this with. It's really just this one recipe. It adds a good flavor, and it adds a lot of rise because of the pineapple. So give this, watch this. see how it starts bubbling and frothing. It actually gets quite a lot of lift if I make it in a smaller bowl. I can really see it. I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna have room to mix everything. So I'm gonna go ahead, rinse this off, and then I'm just gonna throw in 4 cups of rolled oats. All right, so I'm just tossing in 4 really good sized cups, like pretty heaping, of rolled oats because the bananas were quite big. We're gonna do that. Oh, I thought I'd need another bag, but I don't. Okay, and then what I try to do with this recipe, it's so fluffy, like the oats are just sitting on top right now of the mixture. I use a giant spoon, and I try to just sort of, you know, the concept of folding something in. I want to keep all that great fluffiness. Another reason I wanted my oven preheated so I can stick it in the oven right away. Just trying to keep all that airiness. And this is where I don't find they work quite as well as cookies if you have if you've added the baking soda. It just, you want to keep it kind of wet and loose, I find, like a cake batter. Okay, and actually I decided I'm not going to puree the oats, but sometimes instead of mixing with a spoon, I would just take that stick blender and sort of blend the oats a little bit, almost like about the consistency you'd get with a quick oat. So you can also do that, and it just makes a little more cake-like, but the rolled oats are great too. All right, that's it. And you know, I think it's pretty loose, but I think it's okay. Here it is. So I don't want to dry it out by adding too many oats. And worst case, I just have to bake it a little bit extra to get it to firm up. It certainly will with the banana, pineapple, and the oats. They all really help to bind things together. So I'm just going to show you how I put this onto my parchment-lined pan. All right, I know there's fancy ways of getting this to fit your pan, but I just center it carefully. I plop this right in the middle and let it do its thing here. It's totally fine. And then I spend a little bit of time making sure this batter is spread as evenly as I can into the corners and pretty evenly thick so that it cooks really nicely into squares. So I'm going to toss this in the oven once I've smoothed everything out for probably about 45 minutes, and then I'll check it and see how we're doing. See you then. Okay, so this ended up actually taking, I left it in for about 52 minutes. And it's looking nicely browned. It's a little bit cracked on the top. I probably could have left it in a little bit less, but we like it. You know, it's nice and kind of caramelized the sugars and stuff in the fruit. So it turned out really nicely, nice and fluffy. I can see the air bubbles inside. That's why it cracked, I think, a little bit. I'm going to let it fully cool, and then I'll show you how I cut it into bars. All right, so the squares are almost cool. These boys are not very patient. They've asked several times. In fact, I've had to tell them that if they ask again, they're not getting any today because it's nonstop. This is how much they love the oat squares. The vanilla oat squares, they want them, and they want them now. So we are going to cut it now. I usually cut it into 8 squares, and I put each of them into one of these small Ziploc bags, and then all 8 of those into here. I freeze all sorts of varieties of these. Sometimes just put them straight in the fridge, and then we eat these as homeschool breakfast. Also, they're great for snacks. They all freeze beautifully. So versatile, so easy if you're a homeschooling mom or just any person who wants a quick breakfast, okay? So, again, I cut it in half, then into quarters, and then straight across here. I'll just do that quickly. And you guys want to get some plates out? There was no argument there. Okay, you guys can each have a corner piece, okay? Looking really nice and fluffy. Really nice. There's one for you.
Thank you.
Okay, here, and you can get in front of the camera so they can see how much you hate it. What do you think?
Stop it. We always say we hate it. But they always disappear in a hurry.
They sure do. I know. What do you think?
Good.
Is this your favorite, would you say, breakfast square? You do like the chocolate ones too. Peach, that's true. I haven't made that recipe yet.
Maybe my second favorite.
Channel. Yeah, The vanilla ones, they're very good. Okay. All right. So we hope everyone found this helpful. Please consider liking and subscribing if you did, and leave a comment below if you've tried any similar square recipes. I love the fruit sweetened or sweet potato sweetened oat squares. It's just so handy.